Yeah, we will. Let's finish off with some bullish hopium here. So, Kenneth, once again, thanks for the super chat and the heads up here. We'll go to Pampy here and just look. And that's a big thing that I failed to mention earlier at the top of the show. We've been talking about this in accordance with some of the low prices, like the new all-time low on Pulse. We are in this super low liquidity environment, like Kenneth brought up. We've seen it's such old news now, but the incentive inflation get cut so much over the last few weeks. We've seen HEX T shares become more scarce. All these different things have been happening. Pulse X is already deflationary. So we have all this liquidity pulled from the ecosystem. So things can really go hard one way or the other. We've just happened to see it to the downside because Ethereum's at freaking lows too. So what would you like to look at here, Ewok? He said he wanted to see HEX, but in general, and bearing in mind that all this is net money coming in. This isn't even accounting for people that will sell along the way. And, I think we could mention who those people would obviously be. But, this is kind of a made up dream scenario, but it is still good to see, look what this kind of injection could do with the low liquidity we're at right now.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I haven't used this tool, but now keep in mind, this does not include any kind of sells. We would definitely have to battle some of that. But if $50 million, I believe that was the original question from Kenneth, right?
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for the super chat too, by the way. But $50 million straight into HEX would put the 0.0056 currently up to $6.75.
I'll take it.
That would be pretty cool. If it were reflexive on the reflexivity then on Pulse Chain, Pulse X, and incentive would put incentive at $84.66, would put Pulse X at 0.0014 and put Pulse at 0.0016. You've got 69.5x out of all three of these because of the reflexivity, because of Hart's law, essentially bringing everything else up with it. So, yeah, pretty cool. What if we change that to Pulse? If 50 million was put into Pulse, let's recalculate that. I find it interesting that the HEX price right now is 0.0056. I don't know if many people remember this or know this, but the original low of HEX was 0.00005655. That was the absolute low on day 33. And now we're sitting exactly 100x from that, up from there. So pretty interesting. $50 million into Pulse would put that. Okay, well, wait a second.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's just equating all of them.
Yeah. Well, but it would only put HEX at 39 cents, which is, it's putting
which
them
I would still take.
Yeah. And I think it's because Pulse has a lot more liquidity than HEX does at the moment. Interesting, though.
That would make sense, yeah.
Yeah.
But just the fact that HEX doing that well, I mean, that's an interesting thought too, is like how much could money being pumped into HEX, which, that isn't something, I don't know how many people have been talking about that. I know we really haven't all that much, but like if an entity interested in the ecosystem wanted to pump anything hard and it would be HEX, I mean, that would be really interesting for the rest of the ecosystem,
Yeah,
like using that token because it has history, obviously, even though this is now the HEX on Pulse Chain, to lift up the rest of the ecosystem would be awesome. And an idea I think there's people out there thinking of doing. So
okay. I haven't used this site. It's by the way, if anybody's asking, I don't know, I'm not looking at the comments right now, but it's pampi.app. It is the site. PAMPI.app is this website. This is showing the Pulse Chain Reserve, which is obviously that look into RH website that has all of the ETH holdings. If that were that's what this is doing. Essentially, if you're splitting an even between HEX and Pulse X, half of that, if that were to be every penny of that injected into this, you calculate that, that's what it would do to the price as well. It would put it at $78.24. It would put Pulse X at 11 cents. Oh, okay. And then the reflexivity of those two would bring Pulse up to 4 cents and incentive at 6,300. So if you were to divide this by 3, I guess, I wonder why Pulse isn't one of them. It's interesting.
Yeah, this is my first time really looking at this.
Yeah, me too. Me too. If it were divided by HEX, Pulse, and incentive, or Pulse X and incentive, then you get a $48.50. But you know, it's a very interesting thing that even $10 million of buy pressure for HEX would put it at 34 cents. Not quite at our all-time high on the ETH side. However, it wouldn't take much. It really wouldn't take much to pump it back to those levels. Probably, I would guess 15 million. Now that puts us above it. That puts us at 69. So not even. Probably 13 million would put us back at 53 cents right there. So
there you go. Yeah.
And it would bring everything else up along with it. So that's, you know, when you consider this reserve amount, $13 million is nothing, especially if, you know, the price of ETH goes up to say, let's say it's at 6,600.
You can type in a number there too. I just realized you can type in 10K or whatever you want to.
Well, okay, you can just slide.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It only stops on
certain numbers.
Certain things. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Okay, so let's do 10K. It puts that Pulse Chain reserve at $1.7 billion. You know, $50 million is going to do absolutely nothing to that total. So, you know, it just gives you an idea of the possibilities. You know, I know people shouldn't have expectations of anybody buying anything in those amounts, but the possibility is there. So, yeah, pretty cool. Probably nothing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's cool to see is, and we don't have the benefit of knowing what the sell pressure would be. There's obviously going to be sellers on the way up and stuff like that. But just to know that, it is a reminder of like the craziness that we could get to, and the fact that, you know, certain people out there want everybody to be selling these lows right here, so we do not have to deal with them on the way up, you know, and that's why, like, if I were somebody that commissioned a blockchain and had interest in it going up, I would want it to not die, but I would want everybody to sell. I would want everybody that's going to get out, you know, because you don't want them there whenever it's time to go up, and you want thin liquidity and be able to actually move the price with people who are believing. So I totally understand, you know, the mentality of letting things just go where they're going to go until it's time to move up. And clearly, I mean, Ethereum is still freaking, even on this little pump today. I mean, it's in the 1600s. So, you know, we aren't there yet. So, yeah.
Oh, this is cool too. It's a visualizer of if somebody were to put that much money in, I just did Pulse Chain, but you can break it up, and they probably would break it up. Obviously, they're not going to do it in one $50 million chunk.
Right.
This is breaking it up in $200,000 worth of each buy, which would make it 250 buys. And then it shows the stair step of how the purchases would play out and along the way. And then it, you know, it's pretty cool. Yeah, like I said, this is the first time I've played around with this website. I'll definitely remember to bookmark it, and we'll kind of refer back to it along the way. So
good point by Johnny as well. Let's not forget 10,000 people with $100 is still $1 million. Maybe our users just need to start buying. I mean,
well, that too, Johnny. Absolutely.
And the new people that you will garner as the ecosystem grows. Like, you know, it's not just a money in what you might whatever you want to call it, a
Yeah.
SAC fund or treasury, or we have no expectations of anything happening with that.
Right.
But with the ecosystem going up, you will get other people that will be getting into it because retail
Sure.
hasn't really come to crypto in full throat yet. So,
Well, and green candles tend to do that. You said there will be sell pressure, but there's also going to be buy pressure with big buys
mhm,
like that happening. You see someone jacking $1 million in, and even if they do it in $500,000 chunks or whatever it is, there are going to be people that try to front run it. So
mhm,
there, with the sell pressure also comes the green candle FOMO pressure as well. So yeah, for
true,
sure.
true. A nice site to dream on if you want to check out Pampy dot what app, right? APP.
App. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Good little moon math, which I think we all kind of need right now. I think we need a little moon math. We haven't done that in a little while. So it would be very nice. And we're on the launch pad. Like, I mean, this bull market's been nothing. I mean, like it's been only Bitcoin. I mean, that's been it. Obviously, Solana had a run up and stuff, but it was around last cycle as well, and we just haven't seen anything really move in earnest. If any of you were here at the end of 2021, where everything was just totally popping off, my guess is a lot of people got in then. Yours truly got a lot in during that time as
Yep.
well. But there was just so many things everywhere to get distracted by, and it was like up only and never coming back, and it was just
Yeah.
so cool what was happening with Hex at that time, and we haven't
Euphoria.
even tasted. I mean, we haven't even had any of that. There's been none of that whatsoever. I mean, not even a hint of it, which I'm saying that positively, like it hasn't happened yet. So, yeah.
We are almost exactly 1 year from the halving.
Hmm.
I think it was April 16th of last year or something like that, if my memory serves
Yeah,
correct.
somewhere around there. Yeah.
So we're almost a year removed from that. So yeah,
Yeah.
things are definitely due to look up. We get some policy changes and things in our favor with the rest of the markets. I see people taking a little bit more risk. And like I said, it could ease us into a smooth uptrend of a summer.
Hmm.
Then, depending on what happens when the tariff freezes, there could be a pullback at that point. There may be due to uncertainty. And then that kind of primes us up for the rest of the fall, I think. And
Yeah.
I think that, like I said, it reminds me a lot of the 2017 cycle, obviously with different events
Yeah.
happening. It's not the same scenario at all. There's different, that was the year of the Ponzi, 2017, when you had all the BitConnects and all the USI techs and all those, you know Ponzi type things. So
Hmm.
a lot of different scenario, but the chart looks like it could shape up to be very similar.
Yes. Yeah, I think so too, which would mean a lot of bullishness in that third, fourth quarter of this year. So, and maybe we've talked about this before, some spillover into 2026, maybe not with BTC necessarily, but I mean, 100% there will be things in 2026 still running, maybe even by the end of the first quarter of 2026. So that does happen. It has happened. So, yeah.